Now, there's been a strong refocusing on reconciliation and Indigenous advancement with Anthony Albanese's recent election victory.
It's also renewed the spotlight on the Uluṟu statement from the heart and its invitation for all Australians to walk together.
On behalf of the Australian Labor Party, I commit to the Uluṟu statement from the heart in full.
Those were the words many Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people had been hoping and waiting to hear. It wasn't lost on many that the Prime Minister's election night acceptance speech was just days out from the 5th anniversary of the clarion call for change made in the Uluṟu statement from the heart. The statement, delivered alongside the ancient monolith on the lands of the Anangu people, came about after extensive discussions with Indigenous people across the nation.
What we heard when we went out to the dialogues, to the constitutional dialogues, was communities saying the same thing, that bureaucracy is suffocating them, that they have no control over their lives. And that was at the core of the Uluṟu statement.
Culminating with the release of the statement in May 2017, those dialogues with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities across the nation called for voice, treaty, truth. A First Nations voice enshrined in the Constitution, a Makarrata Commission to supervise a process of agreement making between governments, and truth-telling about the whole Australian story. Fellow architect of the statement and long-time Indigenous advancement advocate Arnie Pat Anderson described it as a gift to the nation. There are a huge range of views about the pathway forward, how to enshrine a voice to Parliament in a winning referendum, how such a voice would work and what it would do. There are also a range of views that the Uluṟu statement from the heart either doesn't go far enough or won't achieve the aims of the broader sovereignty movement. Although very big and significant challenges, the value of having big conversations about who we are as a nation, what is the true and complete history, and how we can become a more reconciled nation cannot be underestimated. Arnie Pat Anderson is an Uluṟu woman with an extensive career in health, education, governance and Indigenous advancement, and was an architect of the Uluṟu statement, an advocate as well for nation-building reform. Arnie Pat joins me now from Ngunnawal country in Canberra. A very good morning to you. Welcome to Weekend Breakfast.
Good morning, Dan. Thank you for having me.
How are you feeling right now after the long journey that has happened, all the conversations and what you've heard now from the Prime Minister and the Minister for Indigenous Australians?
Well, I have to say, the last 5 years we've been talking to everybody, trying to educate the public, talking to politicians of all political persuasions. So it's been a very busy 5 years. But to have the Prime Minister stand up there on the very first words that he uttered as our new Prime Minister was certainly, we were absolutely totally surprised, but it's provided now the missing piece, and the missing piece was leadership, and the Prime Minister has provided that, and he's been unwavering. We've spoken to him on and off over the last 5 years, and he has always been committed. He gets it. And to stand up there as a new Prime Minister, it's a huge commitment by the government of the day, but also too, it's a commitment for the Australian people, because it wasn't by chance, it was by design that we gifted the Uluṟu statement from the heart to the Australian people, because it's you, all the listeners and everybody, viewers and everybody out there. You can change the nation. It's a good opportunity now for us to reflect on who we are as Australians, what we stand for, and what are our values, and to finally deal once and for all with what Patrick Dodson has called the unfinished business, the missing link to a mature and sophisticated society. This is nation-building Australia, and as we've said in our advertisements, history is calling its time.
I love that term that you use of this being a gift. You've also described it, Arnie Pat, as being an invitation to the nation. I wonder if you might expand on this, on that invitation for all Australians to walk together on this journey.
It's an invitation, and it is a gift. But with a gift comes some responsibility, and I suppose that's what I was talking about when I said it's this generation's turn to try to correct the imbalances of the past. And to take the nation forward. We've got a parliament now that we've never had before. It's exciting times, And the Prime Minister has put the Uluṟu Statement from the Heart at the centre of the new business for the new Parliament, the new government and the new Parliament. So it's very exciting times. And, you know, we've been doing this, Dan, as I know you know. This is part of like a 10, 12-year process, but we have been doing this generation after generation after generation. And all we're asking for is, you know, Australia is one of the few liberal democracies in the world that doesn't have any arrangement, any settlement with its Indigenous peoples, with its First Peoples. So there's a lot of ground to make up here, but here we have this opportunity. What the Voice will do will assist the government of the day to make better decisions that are going to better affect our families and our communities. We can't keep going on with these terrible statistics that we have. We've tried everything. You know, my generation, we've sat on so many committees. We've talked about it. We talked to one government after the other, one government after the other. And the change has been, there have been changes. To say there haven't, that's not correct. But it's very small and very incremental. And we still find our situation now, we're totally outside of the political decision-making that affect us and the country. We can't keep going on with these appalling statistics. Now, the Uluṟu Statement from the Heart is a very simple statement, and the ask is very simple. We have to have the voice first, which will be the vehicle to drive everything else, rather than having the agency or whatever we're calling the head of Department of Aboriginal Affairs these days to make all the decisions about who will sit and how it look like, blah, blah, blah. Those days are over. We're not doing that anymore. So it's time for real structural reform, real structural change, not tinkering around the edges, going right to the heart of the nation. And as the old people said as we went around with the regional dialogues, the only way we can get any traction here is to use the big law, to use your big law, because then that binds you not by what's the attitudes of the day or what's happening, but rather by your law. You have to have us at the table. You have to talk to us. And that's all we're asking for goodness sake. And in the scheme of things, you know, that happens in the rest of the world with Indigenous people, this is modest. This is conservative even. And yes, we might even be criticised for it being so, but gently, we just we move along here because we can't keep it up. You know, we can't.
Yeah.
You know, the planet, we just can't. It's time.
And this is the point that you've made, that modest as it may be, or conservative even, to borrow your words, this is about taking those steps and then growing from there. Look, I feel like I could talk to you all day on this. We are right out of time, but thank you so much for joining me and for your incredible leadership on this process, but over many, many decades. And I know that we're going to be talking to you a lot more in the weeks and months and probably the years ahead as well. Thanks so much, Auntie Pat.
Thank you, Daniel, for the opportunity.
Auntie Pat is just amazing, isn't she? She and so many other of the elders as well who are leading the way. Amazing.
And having this conversation for
gently.
decades and decades, and making the point very strongly there is that we can't keep just having the conversation. We've got to take the next step. And I don't know what about your view, but the sense that I'm getting around Australia is that there is an appetite for change now more than ever. We just had Reconciliation Week. Be brave, make change.
Yeah.
Auntie Pat's there calling for us all to be brave and make change. That's for all Australians. That's the responsibility part of the gift. So, I would encourage anyone to go and read the Uluṟu Statement of the Heart, the Yarrabah affirmation that followed that just a couple of months ago, and have a look at the language and the way that is designed to bring us together.
Yeah, great conversation then.